Right.
Good, how are you?
Yes. Yeah. So is it by now? Yep. I was actually going to, and then I'm like, I'll wait. And then down by the.
Yep, try it again. Better? Okay. We'll call to order the August 10th, 2026 School District of Menomonee Falls full board meeting. We'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Mosho, was this meeting properly posted?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. This is a regular meeting of the School District of Menomonee Falls, of the school board for the School District of Menomonee Falls, being held at the Village Hall Boardroom in W156N8480 Pilgrim Road, Menomonee Falls, Wisconsin, 53051. It is 6:01 p.m. This meeting will be broadcast by Falls Cable Access and can be viewed live on the School District of Menomonee Falls YouTube page. To watch the recorded meeting, please visit our website, www.fallschools.org, and click on Watch School Board Meetings or Committee Meetings Live on YouTube. Ms. Mosher, you can call the roll, please.
All right. Board Member Taylor? Board Member Durlane? Durlane. Board Member Schimley?
Here.
Board Member, President Kramer?
Here.
Board Member Schmeling?
Here.
Board Member Langer?
Here.
Board Member Grant?
Here.
Excellent. All set.
Thank you. I am now seeking a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented. Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Taylor
I will second.
and a second from Ms. Durline. Is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is set. All right, next we'll move into reports. Do any Board of Education members have any reports they'd like to share?
I just wanted to share one thing. Part of my reports have been sharing about some advocacy I've been doing and some reach out to state legislators related to school finance and funding for public education. So I just wanted to make people aware that something I am doing as an individual board member, this isn't a full board action, but just to bring awareness that I have a Funding Friday series on Facebook. It's really just education to understand more and more about what's going on in public education related to finances and funding. It is just a space to learn like what revenue limits are and all the crazy terms that I've been learning while I've been on the board, and then really just to help the community learn more. So wanted to bring awareness to that Funding Friday series. Right now it's only on Facebook, but I'm looking into finding other ways to put that out there. So wanted to share that.
Yep, I have several items. Just going to check on the mic. A little bit of a distance today, but it works at a little bit of a distance. Special thanks to Falls Cable Access. We do have a backup crew working with us today, but they're doing a great job. Along with special thanks to Katie from our technology department, Mr. Halverson, for helping getting everything set up in that regard. Falls Cable Access always does an outstanding job for us, even the backup crew. So appreciate them and Falls Cable Access. Also, the Neola platform, just as a reminder, everything seems to be going extremely well with the new Neola platform. So no changes for the public. You just click the link where you usually would click for policies, and it goes directly to the Neola site. So just as a reminder, that's been up and running and operational. Some good news on a different but quasi-related note, Board Docs is getting rid of their current site and transitioning to a more stable, better platform. So as the note list is for number 2, I negotiated a lower rate because of some instability that we've experienced. It's not just us, but I'll just speak to us because that is our experience. We did receive a rebate. They're building a whole new platform altogether. So we'll be in on that. That doesn't happen in one day. That's a transitional piece. But we'll make sure that before we make the transitions that everything is working on the backside, all right? So we're confident that a completely new platform is the way to go. There was a technical change to AG 5111, just to start a school form. So our new policies allow me to make technical changes like that. It's just a new form, and everything is listed there, and it's a form that we are currently using. So nothing else was changed at all in that AG. Normally I would bring that to the policy committee meeting, but since this meeting was before that, I'll just make you aware of it. Also, and I'm going to add in a donation, just found out about today, but aside from the $10,000 contribution from Ascension, which is outstanding, we do appreciate the partnership with Ascension, Wisconsin, as part of our new district athletic activity sponsorship. I believe it's $10,000 a year. Isn't that correct, Mr. Halverson?
$10,000 for this year, for sure. Yeah.
For this year, for sure. So that is part of that strategic partnership. So special thanks goes out to Caitlin Windler, John D'Amato, and obviously Mr. Halverson for helping bringing that to its final phase. Also special thanks, and Alec, if I don't get this right, we had a couple of staff members write a grant for a new special education van, or a van, for $45,000. So we found out that we were given the grant for $45,000 for special education transportation through our special ed department. So that's brand new. That's not on your sheets. So thank you to the staff members. Alec told me, but I didn't write it down.
It's Chris Milner, our new transition coordinator at the high school, and Derek Wolfer, the former transition coordinator, now assistant principal. So nice way for Derek to end his time as transition coordinator, for Chris to start his.
Yeah, so that's an outstanding donation, which we will obviously use, as I believe it's part of our 18 to 21-year-old special education transitional programs, is my understanding. There's some information there about the public library. I do sit on the board for the public library. It's actually, in my 3 years sitting on the board, it's actually just been transformational, outstanding. A lot of great interactions with the public library here in the village, which is just an outstanding facility. If anybody has the opportunity, get a library card. Please, there's more than library card. I mean, there's coffee shop, there's food. You can even check out for free cards to go to the zoo or go to the domes. There's different things, and there's more than just books, but there's books as well. New zones for studying. So there's a lot of information in there. So it's a wonderful facility. Just wanted you to make aware of it. I do go to meetings once a month with that particular public library board. So also, thank you to the board. We'll be having a board workshop. We'll be posting for that later this week. This Sunday, August 16th at 10 a.m. we'll be in the committee room. We narrowed it down that 6 of 7 board members are available Sunday, 10 a.m. for long-range financial planning, survey information, and long-range facility planning. All right, so we're scheduled for that, along with Bray will be present, along with school perceptions, to make sure that we have all of the information and up-to-date details, both internally and externally, as we move forward with this process. Meaning long-range financial planning, survey information that we've already talked about, and long-range facility planning. All right?
Is that open to the public, Mr. Munoz?
It is a public meeting. It'll be posted as a public meeting. Yes. But workshops are not recorded, but it isn't a public meeting. Yes, absolutely. And a couple of more things. I put in some articles from around the state about, I thought it was a pretty good article from WPR, some troubling statistics about some homeschooling information, pre-pandemic levels. I thought it was a good article. Plus, also Green Bay Public Schools. I'm familiar with their superintendent, met him a few times when he was still an assistant superintendent in Appleton. Some information there about operating and capital referendums. It's interesting articles. Back to School Fair is this week. We're excited, Wednesday and Thursday. So same times. Feedback from the families was they wanted same times on both days, so there was no confusion. So we changed that this year. So 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on both Wednesday and Thursday are the Back to School Fair at the high school. So there's been some thank you to Building and Grounds. They've done an outstanding job with some beautification in front of the high school to be ready a little bit earlier than the start of school. So you'll see the grade gym is ready, the cafeteria is ready, and also the gym. We'll be expanding into the gym this year. Ms. Mosho has taken over as board secretary, and my assistant, she's also kind of heading up the Back to School Fair. So she's familiar with the district. She's been here and has picked up without any loss of anything. So I thank you for that. So all the information was emailed out to families. It's also available on the website. Sign-ups are going quick, so you can sign up for a time or just come on in. You know, if you don't sign up for a time, we prefer you sign up because things fill up, especially at 10 a.m. Things get filled up at 10 a.m. A lot, and especially right around lunch. So it's better to sign up. All that is in here, and it was emailed around to parents. It's also available on the front page of our website. Back to School Fair, Wednesday, Thursday. So we'll have all the principals present. I'll be there almost the entire time on both days. So if there's any questions from any families or anything, that's a great time to bring it in. So take your pictures, get your start of school things done, bring things in for your schools, all of that. So we've been refining this, actually largely with Ms. Mosho's assistance over the years. We've been refining this process, and we're excited every year to, what did we change and how can we make it better for families? And that's what I have.
I have a clarifying question
Yes,
about the Neola platform and board docs,
yes,
just to make sure that it's clear. So when somebody goes onto board docs, it's not like they have to go into an additional Neola platform. It's like Neola is within board docs.
right. So, yeah, and I'll be clear and more clear about that. Neola and Board Docs are completely different companies.
Yes.
Right, but they worked together for so many years, kind of so close that people thought they were the same company.
Okay.
So Neola decided, I believe correctly, several months ago, maybe even 6 months ago, hey, we're going to make our own platform, keep it over here, and completely host it separately and not have any connection to board docs, because before there was a lot of behind the scenes control that Neola was granted by board docs in order to move things around. So that being said, right now Neola is completely on its own website, but there is a link on board docs. So when you go to board docs and you hit the policy link, it looks like you're inside a board docs, but really just like any other hyperlink, or you're being shot out to Neola's website, which specifically has policies for us. They just have our sorts of policies. So it's something that I put a great deal of time into personally, making sure that I'm an expert on. And at the next policy meeting, I'll be able to show you some of the backside of it, so we can demystify all that,
I was just clarifying too, so that if somebody wanted to look up a policy, they don't have to go to like a different link
Nope.
somewhere. It's the same.
It's all right inside that link.
Thanks.
Yep, no problem. And board docs itself, I believe, in talking to them, realized that they needed to make a change. And as board members, I think you see it and we see it more than the public sees it, I think, with some of the instability that you've seen. And that's just not something that we can have. Board Docs realizes it. They're owned by a company called Diligent. And that was the company that I was negotiating with. They wanted to make Diligent, wanted to make it very clear. They're not improving board docs. They're building a whole new way of doing this, which I am very supportive of that approach.
Any other questions from Mr. Munoz? We can move into committee reports. Looks like the first one we have is curriculum and learning.
Curriculum and Learning has not met since our July full board meeting due to transition and getting everyone situated. So what I will say is that our next Curriculum and Learning Committee meeting is Monday, August 24th at 4 p.m.
Thank you. And then for student support services, I know Mr. Langer had some travel that took him away from the falls, so I will have Mr. Lang give a quick report.
The Student Support Services Committee met on Monday, August 3rd in Conference Room 122 at the district office. During this meeting, we heard reports from our Director of School Nutrition, Miss Nikki Williams, and our 3 school resource officers, Ryan Young, Scott Holtz, and Luke Keene. Miss Williams provided a comprehensive presentation highlighting school nutrition data from this past school year and preliminary data from the summer school program as well. So she had updates on staffing, historical trends, comparing from previous years to the most recent year on breakfast, lunch, a la carte participation, talking about the reimbursement rates from DPI. So it was a really comprehensive report. And if you want to learn more, of course, you can go watch that video. So I just want to thank her for her time putting that information together, and just for her collaborative and detail-oriented, very data-driven way of leadership for our school nutrition program, which is great. And then the school resource officers shared an update on all of the training and planning that they've been doing over the summer to prepare for the upcoming year. And there have been some shifts in those officers. So this upcoming year, Scott Holtz, who has been serving as an SRO in our district for about 9 years, he's going to be at the elementary schools and also leading the DARE program. Ryan Young will be at the middle school, and Luke Keen will be at the high school. So that is our staffing plan. And we're very fortunate to have a lot of experience with these officers and building positive relationships with our students and maintaining safe and welcoming learning environments. So I want to thank them as well for taking the time to provide those updates and just for their continued commitment to our schools as well. So if you're interested in learning more about any of that, of course, you can go on the YouTube channel, district's YouTube channel, to watch that full video. Our next committee meeting will be held Monday, September 21st at 5:30 in the district conference room. And at this time, we are scheduled to receive updates from the teachers in our English Language Services Department.
All right, thank you. And then for the policy committee, I will skip that as it's on our agenda here, but it was nice to be joined by one of our librarians, Mr. Gebauer, for that review. So we'll get to that later in the agenda. And then finance and personnel.
Yeah, at our July 20th Personnel, Finance, and Auxiliary Services Committee meeting, we reviewed two options for the monthly financial reports, with Ms. Windler will present to us going forward at future meetings. This report will help us better monitor our finances and highlight areas that might be over budget or significantly different from prior years. We also reviewed the 2027-2028 school calendar, which is also on our agenda this evening. I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but we did talk about adjusting possibly the 4K conference days to provide 2 consecutive days off for 4K students in October. There'll likely be more discussion about that. And we also reviewed the purpose of the staggered start. I know that can sometimes be hard for families. The reason for that staggered start that we discussed is to give older students the additional school days that are required. But then this also allows our elementary teachers time for individual Ready, Set, Go conferences with families. With also talking about calendars, we discussed how the in-service days align to the end of semesters and trimesters, giving teachers time to complete report cards and other end-of-term work. Finally, we reviewed staffing, including special education staffing and caseloads, the remaining open positions that we had in July, resignations, retirements, as well as potential solutions for filling open roles. The committee also requested additional information on resignation trends, reasons employees leave, and results from the district's day survey that should be on a future committee meeting. If you want to learn more, as others have said, everything's on our district YouTube page, and our next meeting is Tuesday, August 25th at 6 p.m. At that district office conference room 122.
Okay, thanks everybody. And now we will move into our discussion items, and we'll first look at the past year seclusion and restraint report.
We're going to pull up Alec just for both A and B. Thank you, Alec.
Hi, everyone. So I'm here to bring the seclusion restraint reporting for our previous school year, as required annually by Wisconsin Statute 118.305. So just to get started, to make sure we're all talking about the same things here, seclusion means the involuntary confinement of a student apart from other students in a room or area from which the student is physically prevented from leaving. Physical restraint refers to a restriction that immobilizes or reduces the ability of that student to freely move, typically any part of their body, torso, arms, legs, or head. So those are the definitions given us to us by the statute. The statute also prohibits the use of seclusion or physical restraint except in very limited circumstances where that student's behavior presents a clear, present, and imminent risk to the physical safety of students or school staff, and it's the least restrictive intervention feasible at that time. The Act also has reporting requirements, which is why I'm here today. So the numbers of the incidents of seclusion, the total number of students involved in the seclusions, and the number of students with disabilities involved in the seclusion. Additionally, the number of incidences of restraint, the number of students involved in those incidences of restraints, And the number of students with disabilities involved in the incidences of those restraints need to come to the board by October 1st and are reported to the Department of Public Instruction by December 1st. The Act also requires that at least one staff member in each school where restraint might be used be trained in crisis prevention and intervention. We currently have about 50 staff members trained. Every one of our schools has multiple staff members trained. Most of our special education staff and administrative staff are trained in nonviolent crisis intervention from the Crisis Prevention Institute, which is actually just about 10 minutes from here, which is a national company that, actually international company that specializes in this training. In July, I received my recertification from them to be a trainer for the district. So coming up in October, I'll be holding a training with district staff to make sure that everyone gets their recertification, and any new staff to the district are trained as well. The training really focuses on a lot of proactive intervention. So nonverbal de-escalation techniques, verbal de-escalation techniques, really focusing on limiting that likelihood of those behaviors, or if those behaviors do occur, the severity of those behaviors. Hopefully stopping those behaviors before that seclusion restraint is necessary. So getting to the actual numbers, I put the last 3 years on here just so we can all see the trends over the last 3 years. This was 23-24. You can see each school and how it's broken down by seclusion, and then students with disabilities being involved in those seclusion incidents, incidents of restraint, and the students with disabilities involved. And then you see on the most right-hand columns there, the total number of incidents and the unique students. So overall in 23-24, we saw a total of 56 incidents across 16 students. And then you can go ahead and scroll down. In 24-25, we saw a decrease to 15 incidents across 7 students. And then we went down a little more this last year, 14 incidents among 7 students again. So next steps, last year we did implement a formal debriefing policy. So anytime an incident of seclusion or restraint happens, within 48 hours, myself and our program support teacher meet with the team that was involved. And we just go over those ways to, one, we want to know what happened. We want to make sure that those staff members are supported. We want to make sure that they have what they need to, again, limit that likelihood of those behaviors happening again, or the severity of those behaviors if those behaviors do occur. Like I said, we have a nonviolent crisis intervention training coming up on October 16th. We'll have ongoing refresher trainings, including refresher training specifically on verbal de-escalation techniques. We're also trialing the addition of another behavior management system to layer on top of nonviolent crisis intervention at one of our elementary schools, hopefully starting in November. And then we are going to continue our expanded use of functional behavioral assessments per the guidelines that OSEP and DPI have given us to hopefully identify the why behind behaviors, the function behind behaviors, and then be able to be proactive in our interventions and stop those behaviors from occurring. Yeah.
Are you able to share it all? So just a quick glance, thank you, and for all of this. And a quick glance is like, right, in the 23-24 school year, there were seclusions and restraints, and a lot of them were, well, in some categories, were not students with disabilities. And then as you go through 24, and then 25, and then 25-26, now it's like in 25-26, the seclusion matches that it was a student with a disability, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yep, you are correct.
So can you talk about like what changed, or were students then referred to special education from previous, or just talk about how did that change?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I would hypothesize that the students that were having those big behaviors ended up qualifying for special education, most likely under an emotional behavioral disability or something like that, because they were not able to regulate their emotions. That was their lagging skill. And, going through our intervention processes and, maybe not seeing the results we necessarily needed, then those students ended up getting referred and qualifying for special education.
Okay. Do you think that's like the number one, or like, because even like the numbers have gone down?
I think that's the number one for in 25-26, only students with disabilities accounting for the number of unique students. In terms of the numbers going down, I think our expanded use of those functional behavioral assessments which our school psychologists do a really good job of, helps a lot just because we can be proactive then. I also think formalizing the debrief process has been very helpful because then at a district level, we know what resources we need to give our staff. And then that also helps me tailor our nonviolent crisis intervention trainings as well for those specific behaviors we're seeing.
Okay. And then one more thing, I'm not sure if you said this and I missed it. What does unique students mean?
Oh, that's just the total number of students. So what that's saying is 7 students accounted for 14 incidents of seclusion restraint. Yep. So that's the actual number of students.
Okay. Okay. So now I'm seeing this even differently. Okay. So there were, like, for example, 4 seclusions, but it could have been the same student done 4 times. Shady Lane seclusion.
Yeah, it could have been, yes, but
or it could have been 4
right
or
side.
2.
So
Oh.
yes, yeah. So it was 10 incidents at Shady Lane. 4 students accounted for those 10 incidents.
Thank you.
So yes, you're correct that some students were restrained or secluded multiple times then over the course of that school year.
Okay. And then, right, I'm trusting that our special education staff is then really trying to bring supports and added things for our kiddos that have these big emotions.
Yes, and that's, where our state laws do require these reporting requirements, not only to you and to DPI, but parents are legally required to get a report of the incident within 3 business days. And that report also comes to district office, so everyone is well aware of what's happening. There's a lot of transparency there to make sure that we can be accurate in the support we give.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think you kind of answered my question ahead of time of the 3 business days. Do we call like day of as well? Obviously, there's not a formal report, but I would imagine we loop in the parent or guardian right away.
Yeah, we always notify within 24 hours, and then the report is sent to them within 3 business days, and that's why we schedule our debrief within that time frame, because our notes from the debrief are actually on that document then that the parent then receives.
Okay.
Yeah.
In addition to tracking all of the students and the number of seclusions and how many students it is, are we also tracking data on the unique staff members who are doing these restraints or seclusions, like finding trends in that way, and which staff members maybe need more support or understanding of that?
Not specifically, but the incidents are low enough at each building, and with me being involved in each debrief, I'm aware of what staff members are typically participating in those. And that's why we structure our trainings the way we do. Obviously you see in this instance, the special education teachers involved, and that's why we make sure they're a part of our trainings. Typically the assistant principal or principal is always involved as well, just because of something that level. So they're always involved in those trainings as well.
If there's no other questions on item A, I think we can just transition right into item B.
Okay.
I just had.
Yeah. Sorry.
I have one question. Why, all the incidents, well, not all, but most of them seem to be at Shady Lane. Obviously, it's not an age thing because the other school doesn't have any that are the same age. So,
Yeah. Shady Lane and BF.
well, okay, there's a big difference. So what, do you know what the difference is and why it happens at that particular school?
I think there are times when some of our schools have students with disability-related needs that manifest in more physical behaviors, more unsafe behaviors that staff then have to intervene around. And that's why this coming year, we are going to trial an additional behavioral system to layer on top of that for those students at that school. So I really think it's just, unfortunately, for lack of a better word, how it landed with those specific students and their specific needs.
Which is why we track the unique.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. This one is a little easier. So next, in alignment with our board policy 2460, I'm bringing forward our annual adoption of the Model Local Educational Agency Policies and Procedures Manual for Special Education. So we adopted this last year. That board policy requires us to adopt it every year. This has not been updated since last year from the Department of Public Instruction, so it's the same content. But essentially, this is saying that our special education practices are going to follow the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, as well as state statute. So it aligns our practices to be legally compliant. It standardizes our child find and evaluation procedures. It standardizes our placement practices, as well as make sure that we're using the model forms that the state requires for documenting our IEPs. And then also ensures that our parents are getting their procedural safeguards by getting things like prior written notice, getting a copy of the IEP before it's implemented. So again, this is really just saying that our district, our special education practices are going to follow state and federal law.
This is pretty standard. We have to do it every year.
Not gonna go through all 97 pages.
Right. Are there any specific questions from anyone on this document? It's unchanged. We can move on, and thank you, Mr. Just, as always, for the nice presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alec.
All right, we will move on to item C, the school calendar for 27-28.
Yes.
Wayne.
So we brought it, pardon me, to committee in July. And as already mentioned from the committee update, we had some back and forth about moving one of the parent-teacher conference nights from October 20th to the 21st. So our little 4Kers didn't have a day off, go to school day off. However, I sent this back to the calendar committee and thankful to one of the members, because I never seem to remember Menomonee Falls downtown trick or treat. And I should, because it comes up every year, but it always slips my mind and it seems early. So the 21st is the night of this community's downtown trick or treat, which would definitely upset more people than just 4K parents. So the committee has it again. They are back out getting feedback, and kind of depending on when we get all that wrapped up, we can either bring it back to committee, which happens in just a few weeks, but for sure we will be bringing it back for action at our normal school board meeting in September, not the annual one, but the regular one. So I would say everything else on here is great, and we're excited to have agreements amongst the masses on all of these choices, and to be returned with these pesky parent-teacher conference dates in October resolved. So that's why it's only discussion tonight, and it'll give it over a month to kind of sit out there for us to come up with a day that does not negatively impact the kiddos trick-or-treating.
I just want to thank you and the calendar committee for all the work and back and forth. It is not easy putting together a calendar, I'm sure, so thank you for all the work on that.
Yeah. I want to add to something that I learned at that meeting that maybe you can reiterate here, is that September 1st being the first day for 6 through 12, maybe I'm incorrect, but is it unique for 6th and 9th graders, like versus 7th, 8th, and 10th through 12th on that day?
It's not unique. That on the first day of school, when I was a high school principal, it was mostly 9th graders. You know, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I more meant like,
to them.
It's a good opportunity for the 6th and 9th graders to transition.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and 6th and 9th grade transition are two of those big transitions, you know, in any community, but here in particular, It's big, and it's important to give sixth graders and ninth graders a full run of that new big building. And in our case, you know, for sixth graders especially, it used to be a high school. It's a very large, you know, World War II era building. So, and it's a wonderful building that we've updated and everything, but it takes that whole day to get them acclimated to the flow and how to get to their locker and where all these different, the pool and, you know, the gym and all the different facilities that we have. Same with ninth graders.
So then do the non-sixth and ninth graders have a different schedule that day?
Yes. Yeah, so the sixth and ninth graders are there all day, and they have the first, I'll say, part. It's not like a full half day necessarily, but they have the first part of the day to be there with the staff, and then they also have peer mentors, so upperclassmen who volunteer to help the freshmen get acclimated and are there with them as well. And then the older students come later in the day for a more normal first day of school. They don't have to learn all the in and outs, but they don't go to school for the whole day. The sixth and ninth graders kind of have that time to themselves. And it is unique to sixth and ninth graders versus their peers here. However, other districts across the state do this as that acclimation time for those big transitions for kids at these age levels. It's also not uncommon among some of our peers here to have the elementary kids start a day later. We're not the only ones who do that either. Most of the reasoning being the same as us, having more time to meet with those kids and families to prepare them for the year academically, but also because they just require less days, and the benefit to meeting with families and students individually with teacher across our peers as well has been deemed academically beneficial over that one day of school.
Yeah, students in sixth grade and under have a lower requirement of instructional minutes than 7th through 12th. So that was the reference to, did they just have less days, right? High school students, any student from 7th to 12th has a lot more hours and minutes and days of required instruction by the state that are needed, not just in our district, but in all districts in the state. One thing I want to piggyback on everything that Leah said there was that in each case, the sixth grade and the ninth grade, we're using peers. So not just our staff, but also peer helpers, like seniors and juniors and others to, you know, help acclimate, you know, leaders, you know, student leaders to help acclimate students in both levels. So eighth graders at the middle school helping acclimate the sixth graders. So that sort of thing is happening in both of those environments successfully and with training.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. I didn't realize about the older grades, so I appreciate that we do that specific transition time for our sixth and ninth graders. So thank you.
Next, we can move on to Ms. Windler and Mr. Munoz and the discussion for additional open enrollment seat designations at the 4K and 5K level.
Yeah, I'll kick this off. There was a parent that reached out to me several weeks back that sort of initiated this, and this is how it went. The outreach was, I hear it's possible we have some room in kindergarten. I wasn't aware, so I didn't respond, but I said I'd look into it, which is something I would do for anybody who would ask. Not sure, let's check. We haven't really looked. So when I did look, Caitlin's gonna jump into what we found. So it was more of a, you know, an outreach isn't something that was active, you know, being looked to put on the agenda. But once we did look, there is an opportunity for us, and I would consider it a long-term opportunity, but I'll let Caitlin take it away from there and jump in as needed.
So we will be looking at 4K and 5K specifically, and we pulled together some data. So Isabel, if you could scroll to the second slide, please, thanks. So 4K specifically has space at Ben Franklin Elementary. And so what you're seeing in front of you is the snapshot of the actual class sizes as they are right now, as of today at 2:30, we pulled this data to make sure it was as up to date as possible, where we can see each of those sections. So each of those rows is a section or a classroom. And you're seeing Ben Franklin on the top and Shady Lane on the bottom. So this slide is all of 4K. And you'll see the numbers in the far right column show enrollment. And if you look at the top chart, Ben Franklin, you'll see 15, 15, 15, 14, 16, 15. Shady Lane is the bottom section of this page, and you're seeing higher numbers, 20, 20, 20, 16, 17. So we are proposing and like to have a discussion about a recommendation of 12 seats at the 4K level, which would equate to 2 additional students in each section, specifically at Ben Franklin. The optimal ranges that were previously board approved many years ago that we use each year as we look at open enrollment and as we look at staffing are listed in the top right corner of that page. And you can see for 4K, our range is 20 to 23. So we are well below that at Ben Franklin 4K level. So again, 4K specifically at Ben Franklin. And the 12 seats is 12 because that equates to the 2 per section. So that's 4K. And on the 5K side, again, Ben Franklin on the top, Shady Lane on the bottom of this page. So again, you're seeing each of the classrooms, Ben Franklin for kindergarten, and then Shady Lane on the bottom. For 5K, same, this whole page is 5K, 5-year-old kindergarten. On this page, we're seeing that Ben Franklin 5K is within our ranges. However, Shady Lane has room. So that's where the 5 seats at the 5K level at Shady Lane are coming from, which again, this one would equate to 1 additional student in each section at Shady Lane. So my goal was to present this in the most easy to understand format where you can actually see the enrollments as we stand today within each of those grade levels.
Yeah, and this information is very straightforward. And like I said, when the outreach came to me, it was one parent, but in my role as the board's superintendent is to obviously be responsive to one parent, but also look bigger than that, to look at systems, whole programs, and that's what this is. This is looking at it 30,000 feet and going, well, I can't add 1 spot, I should add 5 for kindergarten. And we also looked at 4K, you have that information there. And we have talked to the principals in the buildings, and they're supportive of these recommendations.
I will say too, we looked at, you might be wondering like what happened to Ben Franklin 4K? Because that really is the one that is so much lower than our optimal ranges. 4K is, I want to say, almost impossible to predict and project because 4K students are not required to go to their public school district for 4K. So even looking at birth rates does not forecast what we could be seeing for 4K. So I actually put in the last slide data on both 4K and 5K from Ben Franklin and from Shady Lane across the years, and highlighted in yellow the 2 numbers that are the reason why we're having this conversation. 4K over the last 4 years has jumped around significantly. So 119 in the year 23-24, 119, then 92, then 119, and then 91. And we also do our best to staff consistently. And that is a lot easier said than done in terms of projecting and maintaining staff rather than like roller coastering staff and having all these staff changes from year to year. That's easier at not 4K and 5K, at levels 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and all the way up to 12th grade where we have consistent history that we can project what those class sizes are going to be. But when we get to 4K and even 5K, it becomes very challenging to react to, I'll say, the 4K Ben Franklin enrollment night or the 4K Shady Lane enrollment night, where those numbers might be lower. But we go through so much data to use and talk with our principals about what makes sense for staffing. And so that's why we're having this conversation now in August. We have the ability in a policy and in state statute to open enrollment seats. We don't have the ability to change staffing at this point. So obviously contracts go out in May, they're due back in June. So our staffing is set. We don't have any vacancies that we could even shift at this point. So essentially approving seats is additional dollars at this point. I will say too, we do have a waiting list, but just because we open seats doesn't mean we'll necessarily fill the seats. Once we would have approval, we would start the process and we would notify the first however many seats are opened, that many families on the waiting list. They have 10 days to get back to us, and they might wait all 10 days and then say no, and then we move on to the next. Also noteworthy at the 4K level is that there is not space in the wraparound program. So families, if they are interested in attending Menomonee Falls for 4K, would have to provide their own transportation to and from during, those half-day programs. So we understand that is likely complicated for many families. So we would include that information when it would go out with that, the seats are available.
One additional note is there are no special education spots available. So that doesn't change from our January meeting. Our caseloads are at the ranges that we need to be at. We do not have special education spaces.
Can I just, and I think it might be easier to discuss this as maybe 4K at Ben Franklin and then move on to the 5K discussion at Shady, just because they are very different. Definitely some overlap here. I guess I have a couple questions. My first, if you do 12 students as you propose at Ben Franklin, it appears that year over year you have about 20 students that show up to 5K that don't show up to 4K, looking at the trends. So do you risk then needing to add more teachers? Because now if you have 20 students show up and you add 12, now you're at 32. And I think the bigger question is I don't want to add seats to then have to add staff in, whether it be in first grade or in sixth grade, but
that's a great question. So I actually talked to Mr. Gofford about this exact thing today. So last year we had 18 per room in 4K, and this year I have 23 per room in 5K. And so bringing 12 additional seats on board would still put us at 17, maybe a room with 18. So we'd still, if we were trending the same, would have the same amount of students in the 5K classrooms next year. So if all students moved up plus the additional 5Kers that we get that didn't attend here for 4K, we would maintain our staffing levels. We would not have to add based on that.
Yeah, we spent some time on that question today.
Okay. And is there any thought to, I guess going back maybe to your long-term financial planning presentation about, trying to, budgeting and that, I guess the advantage of getting, obviously it's extra dollars for the students that are attending our district, but do you gain, I'm trying to say, do you gain, $50,000 because you have 5 students, but had you not taken 12 students, you could reduce. And obviously I understand that has greater implications for the state funding formula and all that, but I guess my concern is that you get a short-term gain in the long term, it's a loss, because as you're trying to become more streamlined and maybe, right size our district, and I know we're going through the process now to figure out what that looks like. But we're committed to these, if we open these up, we're committed to these kids for the next, until they graduate.
We're committed to open enrollment students. Let me just be refined about it. We have some experience recently with open enrollment at the high school. And some of those students, actually a majority of them, aren't going to be returning for 10th grade.
Sure.
All right. And so we're putting more systems in place at the high school to try to help with that. Meaning they have to attend. According to state law, if you're habitually truant and an open enrollment student, you're going to no longer be an open enrollment student in the falls.
Yeah, and I think what I was trying to get at is more of
that goes for any grade level.
When you're budgeting and trying to figure out how to get to a balanced budget given the limitations we have, and I understand we cannot tell the future, but do you end up in a situation of well, had we not taken 12 seats at 4K 4 years ago, we'd be able to cut a
I mean, what I would
second,
say is
you know,
that
second grade teacher or something.
this would still bring our class cohort to less than the 25, 26 4K cohort. So it just maintains. If we were dropping and then talking about adding more, then we would be in that boat, but it's just maintaining the prior year's class size cohort essentially. And it's even a little bit smaller.
So
Still.
I would look at it and pose this question. Looking at those numbers, those 4K numbers, my natural position would be, do I need that many teachers?
Right.
And meaning if I don't take any open enrollment, it's the other way. It's getting, but I'm just coming at that from a different perspective, meaning I see 30, 60, 90 students there and 6 teachers.
You're underutilizing the resources you've already committed to this year.
Yes.
Right. I think open enrollment is an opportunity. It's one of those buckets that a district has available to assist. There is a way to do too much open enrollment. I'm not recommending that. We're not even close to that. The number of open enrollment students, and I don't think we have the graph available today, that we are spending, we're a negative district with respect to open enrollment dollars now. I'm sure we'll get to that at the workshop again on Sunday, but meaning we have more money going out than coming in. We've never been there before, I think, in a very long time.
Yeah.
Decade or more. So that's a long range financial response that for the first time in over a decade, we're negative with respect to open enrollment dollars. And that doesn't help the overall financial picture. So I just want to buttress that point, and I think it would be good to add some seats, but that's up to the motions of the board. These are the recommendations. Obviously, we can alter those with motions. You're not bound by recommendations.
I have a question.
Go for it, yeah.
So we obviously have an annual meeting coming up, and we've been working on a budget for the upcoming year for quite some time, working through it, changing things. I know we're not at the whatever Tuesday of September when you do the count, but obviously students are getting high school students are getting their schedules. And so we know, you guys know what the 4K numbers are. I'm assuming you guys kind of know what the numbers are for all the grades. And I'm curious right now, where are we when we say the number of students we were anticipating with our budget versus what we have today? Are we overall under budget or under the number of students?
I have so many numbers in front of me, and I know. I have our projected total enrollment of 3747. That's projected for the start of the school year. I don't have in front of me the number in our budget model of enrollment, but I'll bring that to our workshop on Sunday. I try to anticipate all the questions. I really do.
I know you do. I know you all do.
These optimal ranges, are they set by us? Are they set by the state? Are they set by principals?
It's actually not in policy. The optimal ranges was discussed at a board meeting years ago, and this was established via a board meeting as optimal ranges. I see them as reasonable, but they're not in policy. Some districts do put them into policy.
And I mean, how many years ago? Because things change. Sorry. Things change.
It was
I mean, have we looked?
It was in 2017.
2017.
9 years ago. We haven't looked at the numbers in 9 years.
Well, the ranges.
Correct.
We talk about them annually.
Yeah.
The last time they were formally approved was in 2017. But we
Yes.
talk about them every year when we're doing staffing, budget planning.
We talk about the ranges every year, but they haven't been approved by the board since 2017, and they're not in policy and they're not in procedure, but it was approved in 2017. We're aware of that, and that's where the ranges came from, and that's why we use those ranges, is because it was something that the board did act on.
I, too, have thoughts about the optimal ranges as well, so thank you for asking that, Travis, because, you know, on one hand, I get the financial constraints and adding those open enrollment seats, and I also just, I guess, want to put out there that 23 5-year-olds versus 25 5-year-olds, you know, is a large increase, you know, even versus second grade, you know, like 23 second graders versus 25 second graders, you know, as far as independence and capabilities and wiping noses and things like that. So I am a little shocked by the optimal ranges, I guess, that these numbers do seem high developmentally for the 4K and 5K range. And I just want to say that. The second thing that I just want to point out as well is that I find it interesting that we're talking about Ben Franklin and Shady Lane when, lucky enough, we just talked about the seclusion and restraint reporting, where most of our seclusions and restraints are in Ben Franklin and Shady Lane. So just, and I don't know if that's first and second, I don't know if that's 4K, 5K, but just I just feel the need to share that I think that that's interesting data to kind of overlap on this, that, right, the more students you have in a room, perhaps you could, you know, jump to the, is it causation, you know, whatever, of like, how well are their needs being met, the more kids that are in the room. Those are some thoughts that go through my mind. Other thoughts that go through my mind that I just feel like I should share as well is, right, these are open enrollment seats. They're not guaranteed to be filled, you know, so I respect and understand the need to open up, let's say, for example, the 12 seats that's recommended, but it could mean 5 seats are filled out of the 12.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
That's what it meant last year, and we are late in the season, meaning that we have X amount of students on the waiting list, but
we're getting figured out their plans.
Right. I mean, we'll get some.
But to that point, we have to open the number of seats that we would want to see filled, not the.
Yeah, I don't know where I sit, so that's why I just shared my thoughts.
I am.
Do we have any data on when we have open enrollment at the younger grades? I feel like there's likely the opportunity for them to learn the Menomonee Falls way. We likely don't see some of the same things that we see at the high school level. Do we often retain open enrollment seats at the younger grades than, I don't know, I'm sure you don't have it right in front, but if you can speak from what you know.
Well, we haven't opened new seats.
For some time.
For some time. Well, maybe that was also 2017. It was almost a decade ago now that we opened.
I do know of some wonderful success stories with open enrollment students.
Obviously, it's not specific numbers, but from my reading of Caitlin's graph of our open enrollment, which is there to show the negative monies, is that it would appear, if you went back, that we retained a high percentage of those students, because it looked like there wasn't really a big fall off in that graph. It was a pretty
that's a good point.
Straight line in showing the, again, decline in revenue, but that revenue equals students. So I think those students that were admitted 12 years ago that are still going through our system are retained. But again, I think the rationale makes sense. Obviously, we have the space, we have the teachers. Right? That is a fixed quantity. I think where I go back and forth is just the longevity of what we, obviously we're committing to these however many students for as long as they would like to stay with us, and how that factors into all the different long-term planning and space constraints. And obviously if their cohort is still smaller overall, we would not think we'd have space constraints. Just trying to, since this came out, we've just been trying to brainstorm through.
So you had mentioned you talked with principals. Any conversations or suggestions from the 4K or 5K teachers about additional students?
I'm not aware of any, other than I would think that when it comes to, I believe that 4K and 5K are similar to my experience as an 18-year high school principal, it'd be like an elective teacher. That, there is some instability in these numbers in 4K and 5K because of things we've already discussed. If we can shore that instability up, then we're also shoring up jobs. That said, that large financial picture, that one graph that Caitlin has showing those financial dollars for open enrollment and it falling and us now being negative, right? I mean, there was a decision in this district 15 years ago, whenever it was, to open up seats for open enrollment, and there was a financial benefit to this district for over a decade that now ceased and now no longer exists.
Yeah, and I think another thing I think about, I don't know what the right number is, right? And if you do 12 seats, you're still obviously way under, whatever, it was 17 to 18, 16 per class.
My recommendation is if you're going to do less than 12, do 6.
Okay, and that's kind of where I was going with that.
Because it's 1 per section then. Mm-hmm. Just like 5, it's hard to do 0 because there's space, so you do 5 or 10. So the discussion really is how much per section.
Yeah.
So if 12 is too big of a number, then you go to 6. Not because of any other reason than that's how many sections there are. Because that was our logic when bringing the recommendation. It's why it's not 11, it's why it's not 13. It was us just looking at sections.
I would be interested as to what other people think about numbers on this, because I'm decidedly undecided.
Can I ask a clarifying question first? So it is August 10th. When does the open enrollment window close before the school year?
It's actually the third Friday in September.
Oh.
So the student has to be in school that day. And that is our last day to accept a student.
Yep, that's the third Friday.
I guess you would need to be accepted, I would say, the day before to be in the seat.
Yeah, the third Friday count. Third Friday count.
So realistically, we're talking about like a month and a half window.
Yes, but also realistically, if many families, which I know this from experience, like from, when we opened seats in summer last year, once students are in, once we're calling or emailing and sending letters, school started for their student in their resident district, oftentimes they say, no, we don't want to move our student. So I really don't anticipate, obviously we need to plan to have all of our students, but I don't anticipate based on experience from last year that we would even fill all of our seats.
No, I hear it as it's a solution to try to bring forth a bucket to bring in more funding. It's not guaranteed we're adding 17 more students. It's saying, let's see what happens when we open 12. And maybe we'll see how many.
But if you open 12, you should expect 12.
Absolutely. That's why the number is 12.
And like I said, and I'll just reiterate, if the number 12 is concerning, then I recommend 6. Not because that's how many sections. And
Jennifer, you're going to say something?
So I understand what you're saying is that we're increasing the cohort size or the total number of students in one grade. It looks like we're topping it off, like we're filling up unused capacity if we were to take on, say, 12 more here and 5 more in the other grade. How confident are we that if these students stick with us for years, are we going to have to add resources by the time they get to 6th grade, 9th grade, even 12th grade?
Yep, that's a good question. Kind of piggybacks off what Jesse was saying earlier, is that this cohort, even adding this 12 seats, it still is lower than the prior cohort. So again, it's not, if adding 12 increased this number larger than the 25, 26 cohort, we would not be recommending it. The long-term process, like playing out these cohorts through the years, is taken into account when we do make recommendations, so that with all of the data that we know, we would not be projecting adding down the road.
What's the potential for any of these students to need special education services down the road?
Well, the lower the grades, the better the chance is. However, Mr. Miller, you're gonna.
Yeah, the law on this is very clear. Right now, we don't have special education space for open enrollment students. If along the way, a student becomes identified as open enrollment, their home school, whatever district that is, their home school would be part of that IEP process. And that's where the student would have responsibility for that. I mean, Alec and I have talked through that. Legal and I have talked through that. We don't have that space right now. We're saying it up front. That open enrollment space is in space right now for special education. We just don't have it. But that's a standard practice. Like if, let's say in first grade or second grade, I think is what is being suggested. If there's an IEP along the way, wherever the home district is, Brown Deer, wherever the home district is, they're involved in that IEP process. That is not something that we're doing without their direct involvement.
So their resources are used in that case.
Ultimately, the student would probably, depending on the situation, could end up there in the home district. Or they're providing services. I mean, it's complicated. Talking vague about certain things, when you're in an IEP, the home district is involved in any developing IEP.
Okay.
I know Alec, is Alec still here?
Yep.
Alec, could you step up to the mic and kind of walk through that from the special education director's perspective? Because it's a fair question, but I believe that I've characterized it accurately.
Yeah, so Caitlin's correct that if we do get them younger, right, we have more of a chance to intervene before the special education process. So we have a whole multi-level system to support, whether that's reading intervention, math intervention, behavioral interventions that we can supply to prevent a student from qualifying for special education down the road. Currently, we carry about 13 to 14% of students with disabilities, but of those, 25% are speech-only students that only receive speech and language services. So we do have a pretty low rate of students with disabilities, so I do think the chance is low. However, Mr. Munoz is correct. If a student is in a special education evaluation, we always invite the resident district. We always notify the resident district. If the student qualifies, we then turn over placement to the resident district because we said initially that we have 0 special education seats available. And then we also let the resident district know that at the start of the evaluation process, so then they have a couple of months lead time to make sure that they're preparing their resources as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a process, so it's not, oh, this happens on one day, but thank you, Alec.
Yep.
Does that help?
Which would create more instability for the kid and their family, and hey, you have an IEP, now you have to go back to this school because we can't accept you anymore.
Potentially.
No, if they have an IEP, they go back to the school.
Yes.
Not potentially, right?
I thought you were talking about instability.
No, we invite.
If the Menomonee Falls School District is in declining enrollment, over the long term, we likely need to adjust the number of staff in classrooms. So, that just, if that's the case and we pump up the numbers now, it just makes the problem worse in the future. So, I mean, that's why I asked the question about the numbers, but again, I also understand that it's hard to anticipate every school board member's off-the-wall question, so.
I will say in our balanced budget, we do have over 1.4 million of one-time funding that we are using. So that is the Health Insurance Reserve Fund and the Fund 73 for OPEB, post-employment benefits. So ultimately, if we come in balanced and this becomes additional new seats that are filled, that would reduce the one-time funding need for the 26-27 budget.
Yeah. I think that was one of my thoughts too, that we could use less of that one-time money. The other thought that Ms. Grant's comment popped into my head, and again, without having, the whole enrollment chart in front of us, it might be hard to discuss, but given the drop here in 4K, which doesn't seem completely out of the ordinary, obviously we've seen it bounce around, is adding some seats maybe a way to, while birth rates are declining, like most districts are declining in enrollment, but we know there's that 3-year moving average. Does adding some seats here kind of soften that decrease, assuming the funding formula stays the same? Right, we're not trying, I think there's, to Mr. Munoz's point, right, we could say we don't want to have declining enrollment and have 100 open enrollment seats over all of our all of our grades, and say, we're not going to accept fewer students. And is there somewhere between just let it fall and let it fall gracefully?
I'll answer the question that there is a 3-year average, right? And I would like for the funding formula to be fixed, but it's not. This is the one that we have. So the 3-year average is, this will help that. This will help that. This is a way to affect the current funding formula, which I don't see changing in the short term. I would love it to change. It's broken, right? I believe that it's broken. That's me speaking, not the board. That's me, right? I believe the funding formula is wrong for 80% plus of the districts in the state, including this one. That said, this would help the 3-year average.
And I'm just going to speak on a very granular level, because I have to, that the actual revenue limit formula on the 3-year average and the open enrollment ins and outs net are actually two different separate formulas, but they work together.
Yeah.
So like adding additional seats adds dollars and thus softens the declining enrollment. So, and I will say, like, at this time, we have the accuracy of these numbers being August. I wouldn't feel good coming any earlier with 4K seats earlier than August, because there's so much flexibility and instability that happens with enrollments and withdrawals from enrollment night in February until the start of school. And I mean, I even pulled that data, and that's where we see, the bouncing around and even the instability in the month of August. So that's where I feel with the 12, it still even provides the buffer. So. Oh, yes. No, because this is going to be it. Thank you. I was trying.
I know, I had the same thought.
Thank you, Leah.
I was trying on my phone to search every document.
So another observation I'm making too is, okay, so maybe can you talk a bit, about how you got to 12 seats? Because I can also see that because you're using the optimal ranges as a number, another strategy could have been to add 5 per section, like for example, for 4K.
Yes, so there are, we have to take a look at who's in the portal. So that means there's an enrollment portal. Right now there's one 4K student in the Ben Franklin enrollment portal. There are 4 4K students in the Shady Lane 4K portal, which doesn't matter really for this, but so we take a look at who's still in the portal and leave space, because it's August, but it's only August 10th. Okay. So we absolutely could say 5, 5, 5, 5, 5 for each of those sections, but there's a point where that's not realistic for our school district, because we do know those are students who are new to us. So 12 is the balancing act. That's why that number was brought forward.
Yeah, initially,
I was just going to say, if you look at the number of students, when you look at your historical report, that like if you look at 4K in 2023-24 and then compared to 5K in 24-25. If you do that for every year and you're seeing like the number of students, because 4K is not required, so the number of students, it's unpredictable to know who didn't come to 4K but will come to 5K. It seems like those numbers are averaging like between 15 and 30. More students from 4K are coming in when it's 5K. And so if we take the higher end of that range, we say it's 30, and we're adding that on to the 12. We add that on to the 90 students that are in 4K right now, we're at 132, and you're dividing that between 6 sections, it's still at the low end. It's like 22 students for 5K, which is the low end of our range anyway. So I think if we are taking our averages the last couple of years and understanding like we're banking on the high, right? Because we don't want to make our class sizes blow up. If we take the higher end of that range and we add on these 12, we're still within the class size range of these for these 6 teachers, and we're on the lower end of what we have said we approve of. And I do find these ranges to be high, but based upon what has been approved in the past, we would still be within those ranges, is my opinion. That 12 seems like a reasonable number.
And obviously we'll have action on this, and we can still discuss the 5K numbers here, probably with some overlap with what we've discussed here. I think I personally probably lean more towards 6 at this point. I don't think anything's right or wrong. I don't know if we want to talk about 5K or other thoughts on the 4K. I think with
I think there's a little bit more stability with 5K than 4K.
Most certainly. I think it's an easier decision to me at the 5K, because you have to go to 5K.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I think with 5 seats at the 5K and adding 1 to every section, and I think you kind of explained your logic already on that part, and that makes sense. Is there, and I imagine, I don't know, I'm not an educator, like, is there any value to trying to make it even and adding, would that be 4 seats versus 5, or 1 student extra probably doesn't make a huge deal. And then can you, you did get, sorry, I just was so focused on the 4K, the Shady Lane 5K. So we are 30 students less than last year. So again, I kind of go back to that thought of our district is decreasing in enrollment, and we should accept that reality. But again, is this a way, do you do some way to soften that over the next 5 to 6 years? And obviously this would be a way to do that. And I think obviously talking to the principals definitely is important. I know you had shared that with me. I think that's important.
I mean, Brad and Justin have been pulled into the conversations.
Yeah.
And actually the 4K recommendation is actually tempered. Initial recommendations were a bit higher. So
So that's what I find interesting, that, okay, the same thing. How did you come to the recommendation of 5 seats instead of 10?
So in the 5K portal, the enrollment portal,
Okay.
there are 6 additional seats in the portal for 5K. So again, it's just the unknown of August and leaving room. So when we add, I mean, you could add 10, but we have to balance the human side of opening seats.
yeah, we believe 5 is safe given what we know in the portal.
Are there, I don't know what all exists in the world, are there 4K, 5K, like private schools and then people join in first grade? Is that common? Do we see our bump at all in first grade, or is 5K a good predictor of
No,
moving forward?
generally 5K and first grade are similar, like the cohort numbers as they travel are
Okay.
more constant, more static.
Very similar.
Okay.
Can you give a little more detail about when you say portal and there's,
Yes.
do you mean that there's 6 5K applicants?
They're still working through their paperwork and they haven't been placed into a class yet. So they will be joining us. We have required paperwork when students join us. And so we're still working through that piece. So they're not formally placed into a class yet, but we include them in, like when we brought these seats forward, we anticipate that they will join us. Especially if it's happening in August. I mean, sometimes we'll get an applicant in February and because they anticipate moving and then they actually never moved. But like if it's happening in August, we're going to get them. Now, the opposite of that is we could still see a couple withdrawals, but again, that's why the numbers are brought with room. There's still room in each of these classes in each of these grades.
Okay, so when you were talking about portal, you weren't talking about open enrollment.
No.
I apologize. I interpreted as, like for 4K, there is one 4K person that would potentially want it.
No, we have over 30 in each of the open enrollment waiting lists. So, yeah, there's 2 different portals.
No, that's
Oh,
okay.
that's okay. The portal that Caitlin is referencing is, we've brought them in, they're not done with all of their paperwork yet, but it's a process.
Yeah.
Another question about the 4K, actually. If we are to open up 12 seats, do we have to be specific on AM, PM?
No, we don't have to be specific. We would place where there's space.
So if you apply and we've accepted you, this is just what you get.
Yep. And if you can't, this is your option. It's, no transportation, it's PM. I'm making it up, but that, whatever the circumstances, wherever the space is, and we would work with the principals on that specifically. That's what's in their letter that they would have to agree to or not. And they could decline a seat, and then we move on to the next person on the waiting list.
And it's all randomized. So everybody on the waiting list has already received their random,
Their lottery number, yeah.
their lottery number. So that's a standard process that's occurred months ago.
I will say too, there's a couple, I don't have the numbers, but there's a couple that are, when there's a sibling already attends here, they have priority. So there's that situation applies to both grades. It's not the full number of seats, but there is at least one sibling attending in the grade levels. So they would have the first, they got number 1, for example. And so then we moved down the waiting list.
That's right.
And just to clarify, and kind of something Travis said was just changing schools. If we accept someone into Shady Lane 5K, they automatically go to Valley View, no matter what Valley View looks like that year. There's not we don't reassign them to a school, or we have the option to, or how does that look?
That's a really good question. In our letter, we are not stating all 4 schools. So we, as the district, would have the ability to, if Valley View, that cohort is really full at the 3rd grade level, we would have the ability to move to Riverside.
Okay. Do people have thoughts on the number of 5K and what is appropriate?
I'd support going with the district's recommendations.
Obviously, we'll have action on this later, so we'll move on. Are there any other, before we move on, I just want to make sure, because we've had obviously a lot of discussion here. Other questions, concerns, discussion on open enrollment?
So the reason that we're talking about it today and voting on it today is because it's August 10th.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And if it was any later, we wouldn't have time. And if it was any earlier, we wouldn't have reliable numbers for these grades.
Is there a reason we didn't talk about this in July?
Honestly, there's a lot that happens in August, between July and August in regards to 4K, especially with that low class. It could have boosted way up at the Ben Franklin 4K level, really, or Shady Lane, but it's really the 4K that's so unknown in summer. So I wouldn't feel good even a few weeks earlier. I wouldn't feel as confident as I do in these numbers.
The timing is ideal to make a decision.
Okay.
Okay, I think with that, we can move on to our final discussion item, which is the policy and AG rewrite for 25-22. So this came out of, obviously a few months ago, we've had public comment several times on, over the last, I think, 2 years of books in this district. We're presented with something very publicly at a meeting, and policy committee did look at it and kind of said, and I was happy we all got to that conclusion of, we want to stay with Neola. We don't want to stray outside of Neola. And I think especially in our first year of Neola, that's a good, I believe that's a good stance to have. In looking at that, we also looked at the policy that we did have governing it, and kind of what else existed in that sphere. And there was an ask to, our existing 25-22 is, I don't know the exact percentage, 70% Neola, 80% Neola. It's co-branded. Someone stole it. I think you've told the story many times, Mr. Munoz. Someone graciously borrowed some Neola language many, many years ago, before you or Scoped or anyone was in the district.
Before anybody in this room on the board or any administration that existed, yes, there was a version of Neola's policies that was co-opted by this district and taken as its own.
So with that, and knowing that we were already, again, 70 or 80% on Neola, and I share Mr. Munoz's, I don't know, desire is the right word, of to be as much Neola as possible, but the ask was, could we get to 100% Neola as a way to, I don't know, a neutral way to move forward. And I know, Mr. Munoz, you can maybe speak more to it than I can, but you and Mr. Gebauer and a high school librarian sat with our Neola rep, Dr. Thompson, sat down. So the people that it would impact most, I think, sat down in a room and did some work and got us to a draft that's here. You brought to the policy committee in, it was end of July, we had that meeting. We didn't add anything at that meeting from the drafting. I think there's a few clarifications of calendar days versus business days. The initial draft had, I think we had a few clarifications there. I had one further clarification to ask tonight that we got an email, but just to kind of set the stage of is how we got to here was really a desire to stay with Neola and get to just to see what, could we get to 100% Neola on this policy.
I mean, there was we brought a bunch of policies in the middle, at our first policy committee meeting that we looked at as possibly changing. This one came out of that initial policy committee meeting as something that there was a desire to redraft. So I pulled in Principal Gebauer and Emily Leonard, who's a librarian, and also curricular chair. So she's curricular chair and librarian. So when you see curricular chair in this document, it's specifically talking about her as the curricular chair. So that's one thing I wanted to hit on, but we drafted with Dr. Thompson this policy from boilerplate template. So there was nothing in that I put in as original thought or Mr. Gebauer or Emily Leonard, but we did look at this and make decisions. So we did look at the templates and made decisions based on our local, we were asking questions specifically of school librarian Leonard about how does this really work and what would be the best selection to make for our district given this situation. So, I did speak with Dr. Thompson as recently as 2 days ago. Also today, he and I had communicated again today, and there's a couple of things that I just wanted to mention about 25-22, the way that it's currently drafted, is that a few points, general confidentiality under statute 43.30, library records identifying an individual borrower are strictly confidential and may not be disclosed except under specific statutory exceptions. That's one thing. Parental exception threshold, Wisconsin Statute 43.4.30 sub 4. The statute creates a mandatory exception allowing custodial parents, guardians to inspect library records only for children under the age of 16. That, once again, that's Wisconsin Statute 43.30 sub 4. Also, 16 and 17-year-olds, this is an important point. This is Neola reminding me of the law, and I'm reminding the board of this. Once a student reaches the age of 16, they hold the privacy rights over their library records under state law. Disclosing a 16 or 17-year-old student's public library records to a parent without the student's consent or a court order would violate the confidentiality mandate set forth in 43.30 sub 1 of the state statutes. So I just, I jumped into the specificity of that, and we didn't at the policy committee meeting because, you know, some of the back and forth and emails that come out and social media and all these sorts of things. It's an important point that decisions are made and selections are made and templates are created, you know, especially with a policy company like Neola, who services over 355 of the 420 school districts in Wisconsin. There's usually a solid basis for the why, statutory and legal. I will also read something that Dr. Thompson sent, that when you use the template language, he is saying, hi, David. When you use the template language, the policy itself is legally warranted. This occurs when the policy itself is challenged. After reviewing both the policy and AG again this morning that we have in front of us here today, we're in a good spot for this policy to be defended by Neola. And from where I sit, I mean, limiting risk is what this is. We used our local experts, high school principal, school librarian, in a room with Dr. Thompson to work this to where it is right now. So,
and I think one other thing that I think helps with transparency to everyone is that, and our current policy suggests that there should be some rhyme or reason to the weeding process, but the Neola one actually says, somewhat similar to Ms. Windler's, you must present a monthly financial report. This new policy says you have to write down that process. It doesn't tell them how, or lets them use their professional judgment. But I think also adds to transparency. And again, I think that'd be challenged. We know there's going to be something written to fall back on as to why decisions were made versus now. I mean, they may have something written, but they are not mandated to. So I think, like I said, I very much appreciate you and especially Mr. Gebauer and Ms. Leonard taking time to look at this. Are there questions? Obviously, we spent a lot of time on this in the policy committee, but if there's...
I would want to throw one more thing out there, that our library department holds a wonderful public-facing page, which anybody can jump onto right through our website, and then you can see all the different things that have been weeded out, and it's all right there, a couple clicks in on our site.
I just want to thank Mr. Munoz for getting the details about that Wisconsin statute, because I know we did bring up the age at the policy, so I thank you for getting that specific statute, so we have that law in front of us. I also, one thing I like about this, and you brought up the library page, I know there are pages where people can request books, but there's also a process in place if a parent or has a concern, there's a clear process in here as well. Not saying that other one didn't, but I do like how it's detailed out here.
Can I ask a question that, based on what you were saying earlier, Mr. Munoz?
Yep.
You were saying that parent cannot ask for the library records of their 16 or 17-year-old. I know there's been many comments in the past for people saying that, you know, the school district removing books is not, you know, it's not fair for one parent to be able to remove the books for all the students, but are we also saying now that a parent of a 16 or 17-year-old can't restrict the books of their own student?
I'm not saying anything like that. I'm referencing Wisconsin statute 43.30 sub 4, where it says the statute creates a mandatory exception allowing custodial parents, guardians to inspect library records only for children under the age of 16. I am not suggesting anything.
Okay, so I'm trying to clarify, because if a parent can't ask for something like the records of their own child that's 16 or 17, are they able to say, I don't want them to read this title book? Because it seems to me if you aren't able to know what books your child read, I'm not sure you can actually restrict the books your child is going to read.
I can get back to you on that at a future meeting.
How, has that been state statute for how long?
I would have to look that up.
But it wasn't.
It's not new.
Of nobody's recollection. It's not like it was created within the year.
Well, Dr. Thompson reminded me that I should be aware of these state statutes in an email that I have here.
But these state statutes could have been in place for 5 years, 10 years, 27.
I can look that up for you.
I guess what I'm saying is if there's books that are generally objectionable and a parent can't restrict their 16 or 17-year-old from reading it, the only way to restrict that is by, again, having a policy like the one we have currently that has some higher levels of, you know, of picking and removing books that are just not age appropriate. Then no child is reading it from the school library. But certainly, as Mr. Munoz said, we have a fabulous, fabulous public library here in Menomonee Falls, and likely all those books are available to students there.
And there's the internet, right? Students could find all this stuff on the internet as well.
And I think I don't know, Ms. Grant, if you were referencing like the homegrown checklist of, I think there's like the profanity checklist in the current one, which I don't think it's bad. I think it makes zero profanity in elementary school, and it slightly goes up somehow. I don't have that page open in front of me. Because I'd also wondered about that, and I think the Neola way seems to say that I think we can agree, right? Profanity and sexuality, and there's things that may be objectionable depending on how it's presented, and right, there's a million different things. But
I think we could agree on it, but it sometimes seems that
sure, fair enough. And I guess where I'm going with that is there's also objectionable things about like self-harm or crime, or like there could be other things, and like the homegrown, I don't think that homegrown checklist is bad. I think the broader wording of the Neola one just says, here's everything, and use your professional judgment. I'm not trying to subvert that checklist.
Okay. Well, again, President Kramer, I think you and I probably could agree on a lot more than I think some other folks in the community are willing to agree on. So okay. I would say that is a fair statement. Like what you said is a fair statement. I think you and I would agree on a lot more things.
Yeah, and so I won't dwell on this, but I think, right, I think the goal is to make it all encompassing. I really do think getting a Neola is important. Right. I also think, obviously we've heard a lot about the books that were removed, and, I think of some of those, many of those are probably would not be possible into our library, and with this current policy, I think it does provide those guardrails.
Again, I appreciate those comments. I really do, because I think there are people in the community that would bring back every single one of those books. And so I do appreciate that you are willing to state that a number, again, maybe a few of those books could come back. And I could probably agree on that as well. But I agree that, or I think agreeing with you that a number of those books are completely inappropriate. I think we've received some emails of late kind of displaying exactly what is wrong with some of those books.
No, I think that's I think, like I said, I agree with your statement too, right? There are some books in there that were used in like AP Lit classes around around the US, that they were pulled out, and we can probably agree on a lot. I think that this policy, yes, it gets us on Neola, and I think also since conversations gone this, I kind of see it as a step forward. If this was a neutral policy, this is 100% Neola. This was drafted by the people that are going to use the policy. There's no custom. No one in the policy committee had any language. Making sure that our library it's run by the librarians. It's functional no one in the community gets that library, right? Like, it is a library for the students. It should not be a political trophy case. So I'm hoping that's what this redraft is.
I just want to say that I appreciate that Mr. Munoz and Dr. Thompson and the library media specialist and the high school principal sat down and looked at this first, then brought it to the policy committee, and that they were there, minus Dr. Thompson, but that they were there too to help us through these conversations at the policy committee. So thank you for those additional steps and involving the professional experts who will be really working with this policy.
Can you just give us a general idea of the process for a parent who does not want their child to read a certain text? That child is younger than 16. What is that process? I know we were saying if they're older than 16, is that process the same? But even for those younger students, what is the process for parents?
I think that's a good future agenda item.
Okay.
I mean, not prepared to impromptu get to that. I can certainly get you those answers.
Yeah. And I do think that question of older than 16, do those restrictions disappear? Are they still there? I think to get those answers would be good.
I can make sure that you have the statutes.
Are there further comments on this any specific wording in the policy or AG? And again, just as a reminder, since this is Neola new, we approved the policy, and Mr. Munoz updates the AG per our governance structure.
Yeah, correct. So just as a reminder, the AGs are updated by me, but you can see it in there. It's already viewable. It's been viewable for everybody since we posted, actually the last time as well. So if the board sees fit to approve this policy, I will make active the new AG first thing in the morning.
Okay. I think that concludes our discussion period. And with that, we will move to questions from the audience, but I did not get any forms, and there were none. Thank you, Ms. Mosho. So with that, we can move into the action items. Our first action item is, that is first, okay. Usually we go in order of discussion, so I just want to make sure I had it in the correct order this time. So our first action item is the policy that we just talked about. So I am looking for a motion to rescind the previously approved policy 2522, so the co-branded Neola Menomonee Falls policy, and to approve the newly drafted 2522 as presented.
I'll motion.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second from Mr. Taylor. Is there any further discussion on this policy?
Is there going to be a separate then motion on the AG? I mean, I know you said, I see here it's written out as a.
It is written out, but my understanding is that we don't motion the AG.
That's
No,
what I thought.
you don't motion the AG because if you do, it becomes policy. So, yes,
So why is it written on here?
an error,
Okay, all right. That's fair.
Sorry.
Okay,
my error, so it shouldn't be there.
okay. And then I'm just, if I can just make a quick comment, is that, you know, based on the fact that I don't know what would happen to 16 and 17-year-olds under this policy, I can't vote for it, so I'll be voting no.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? All right, then I will say, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
And that passes. Next, we will move to,
She marked me as a yes. I was. Sorry. Thank you.
next I am seeking a motion to adopt the model LEA special education policies and procedures as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Taylor
I'll second.
and a second by Ms. Sterline. Is there any discussion on this packet? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes unanimously. Our third action item is the 26-27 additional open enrollment and seat designations. So I would be, well, I guess I will make the motion after our discussion, and I am open to, let's see, anyone wanting to amend this. I'll move to approve 6 additional open enrollment seats for 4K and 4 seats for
Hey.
5K.
Did you want to keep 5K the same? Or reduce it by 1?
I was going down by 1. So I was doing 6 and 4. So 6, my motion is 6 4K and 4 5K.
Got it?
So a total of 10 students. So I guess if there's further discussion, my motion stems just from, I think Ms. Windler and Mr. Munoz, I think you have rationale for your numbers. I think I'm always a little tentative given our last time we did this late addition. I understand we're dealing with very small children, kids my kids' age versus high schoolers, and that the problems we might face are different. And I appreciate the smaller cohort. I still, especially in 4K, worry about that kind of jump that you mentioned of that 20 to 30 students. And I think there's some natural attrition happening, obviously with birth rates in our village. And I don't think we're not trying to stem that. And I think if we are going to, right size and just looking in the future for, potential cuts that might need to be made, I don't want to overcommit us. So I think from all the stuff you guys presented, I landed on 6 and 4. We can also split these out in separate motions. And I apologize, I did not ask for a second before I gave my rationale.
So you'll need a second before you can discuss.
I'll second.
Okay.
Sorry, and discussion.
I personally do really appreciate all the district's work, and I think the rationale breaking down the math. I personally liked the numbers of 12 and 5 for 5K.
We'll need to.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
We'll need to vote on this.
Yes.
Or entertain other motions.
Yeah, I was just giving a period in case, I didn't know about your comment, if you wanted to make an amendment.
I would like a clarification. we could then only vote on that number. We can't, obviously, we wouldn't vote on both numbers,
Well, you
correct?
could make,
No,
you could make a
unless,
secondary you could amend my motion,
yes. You could,
which you are more than free to do.
I would like to amend your motion to go back to the district's recommendation of 12 for 4K and 5 for 5K.
President Kramer would have to accept the amendment. You would have to accept the amendment, a friendly amendment.
Yes.
Or not. You don't have to accept it.
So you don't have to accept it. If you don't accept it, then it means your motion goes to vote. Or somebody else can make another friendly amendment that you could accept or reject.
Sure.
So it has to kind of be.
But she can
So I
make a
think the
motion
question
to-
is-
She can make a motion to amend my motion, and her motion could be seconded.
No,
I don't
she's
get to-
making a friendly amendment, as they call it, to your
Sure.
motion. And if you accept it, it becomes a new motion, but it doesn't erase your motion unless you accept it.
But once we vote on it, it's over, correct? So like whatever vote if we vote now on 12 and 5 and it fails, then we're done. Nobody gets to go, oh, wait a minute, I want 6 and 4. Is that correct?
So I actually do think you could go back as long as you're all still voting after you've had more discussion inside each motion.
Can we have two motions, each with a different option, and vote on those?
No, you got to do one motion at a time.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have a live motion and a friendly amendment.
I see. So I have a motion without a second. Yes.
Right.
No, you have.
You have a second.
I'm sorry. Yes,
You
I
have a motion and a second, but now the offer of a friendly amendment.
So if you accept it, that means that's the new motion on the floor to vote on. If you don't accept it, it goes back
To your original
your
motion.
motion.
And then they vote on the original motion.
Yeah.
Well, we could, my understanding of Robert's rules would be that I have a motion and a second. She can motion an amendment, not a friendly amendment, but just like a formal amendment that could be
Okay.
seconded, that we could vote on the amended motion. And if that would fail, I would go back.
Go back to yours.
Is that not, is that
Yeah,
inaccurate?
I didn't bring my book along today.
Now, that's getting,
Why is her amendment friendly? Like,
if he accepted it, if
right,
he
like
accepts it.
why is she, I would say friendly, it's because she's trying to help him out because he had some
No,
problem in his
it's
motion,
because
but if he doesn't
she's
think he has a
not voting
problem.
no.
It, I
It doesn't matter if
only,
it's actually friendly or not, it's just
Yeah,
the
it's
lingo
just-
that they use. It's that she's saying, I heard your motion.
I was suggesting it was a
But I
friendly
have a
amendment.
different
I don't know if
suggestion.
it's a friendly amendment.
I said it friendly. Does that count?
I suggested it was a friendly amendment. By no means
I
was
took that as an, she was,
Okay. Well,
I mean, the really, it's really up to, would you like to amend your motion?
right.
And if not, then vote.
Or we get a second on the other one and make it the new motion. And then if it fails, it goes back to your motion.
That was my understanding.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Robert's
That's
rules.
correct.
I made a motion, there was a second. At that point during discussion, the motion can be amended.
But if you like it, you can accept it without the second.
I can. But if I say no, then that would become a regular amendment that could be seconded in itself
Yes,
to supersede my motion.
That's correct.
it's starting to get pretty messy.
It is, but that is correct.
Okay. That was my understanding of Robert's rules.
Nope, that's correct.
I think Amy's looking it up right now.
I know, I was gonna say, there's gotta be the internet.
ChatGPT is gonna help me out.
I didn't mean to make things complicated.
No, I mean,
Approving the current idea.
I am one voice. It is my thought, but if,
I don't know, see, that feels like that.
So it really has to do, I was suggesting that it was possibly a friendly amendment. Really, we need to know that. Are you, because you
So-
can vote again.
right.
If you mowed it down, there can be a whole other motion. The answer to that is yes. That's a cleaner way to do it. Meaning vote on what you have in front of you. And then if that doesn't pass, then
No point to go.
somebody propose something else and vote again. You could also go the other way.
Or
So it kind of talks about a material change versus
Yeah.
just an improvement on the wording.
And this is a material change,
I would say that felt like a material change.
It's a
which
number
means
change, yeah.
You should be resolving your first motion before moving on to an amended motion.
Yeah.
Because it's a material change, not your motion didn't quite make sense, and this helps clarify your motion.
That's not what it is. They're changing the number.
Gotcha.
So
I would say that's material change.
we should vote on and then if it doesn't pass, vote on something else.
Yeah, it doesn't die, you can keep motioning.
But that wouldn't also make sense to accept that many. So you're saying the correct route is to vote on 6 and 4, and if that passes, allow another amendment on the same action item?
No.
Well, if that passes, that's over.
it's
If it
over.
doesn't pass, you still have the option to make different motions that are not the same as the first motion.
I see, yes.
I think the cleanest way is to vote on 6 and 4,
Okay.
see what people are going to vote, and then move to the next motion if that doesn't pass.
Okay.
Because really what you're saying is you don't agree and you'd like to vote on something else.
Yes.
And that's not a
I see what
clarification
you're saying.
change,
That's-
it's
yes,
a
it's
material
not-
change.
Yeah, I made that more difficult by calling it something that it wasn't. That's
So-
my fault.
So then what we're saying, if
We have a
we
motion.
have to go from 6, we have to start at 6 to 4 now, we can't do 12 to 5.
Because there was a motion and a second.
Motion and a second.
There's a motion and a
You're not
second.
going to amend my motion for numbers, which is what I understood you to be doing. So we will,
Yeah, it's a material change.
Yeah.
fair enough.
So you should vote after discussion.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So
Absolutely.
if he wouldn't have made an amendment and we would have voted and said no for the 12-5, could you have done another one then
Yes.
to
Yeah.
reduce it?
Yes.
Got it.
Any of you could have made a motion for different numbers.
Yeah, the only way you don't move
Only
on
one
is
grade
if,
level and not both.
I think it's what's normal here versus what's allowed in Robert. Right. Typically, we do not vote more than once on a single action item.
Because usually you actually take a vote and it either passes or fails and
Yes,
you all seem fine with it.
For a yes
but
no item.
Technically, you could all
yeah,
keep going.
Are you sure you don't have to like bring it back for reconsideration by somebody who voted in the negative in the next meeting? Like I mean, now we could have a whole problem here if we don't follow Robert's rules. And so, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't want to vote on something and then find out
Yeah, I
that the
got a whole
vote
book.
is
I know, that's not
ineligible.
here.
And so then, and this whole thing hinges on today.
Yes, and like I said, it's different than my understanding of Robert's rules, but I will defer to the lawyer in the room.
there's a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second for 6 and 4. We can have discussion on 6 and 4. We've already had discussion. We have had a lot of discussion actually on open enrollment. All right, is there
Just to
anything?
clarify before we vote, if we approve, there's no option to go to a higher number. But
That is correct.
Correct.
But what we like, what we're.
I am essentially declining to amend my motion, which has already been seconded.
Yep, and I overcomplicated that by suggesting that it was a friendly amendment. That was my mistake.
So
with that, not hearing any further discussion, we'll take a vote.
hold it.
Okay.
If this vote fails, then is there an opportunity to vote right after this on different numbers?
no.
So this is really interpretation here, but if you have a motion that fails, you can bring a new motion in the same meeting if you bring up a completely new motion. Otherwise, you need to wait for a future meeting.
So is this considered a completely new motion?
Well-
Let's change the numbers.
I will be honest, I support both numbers. I support the higher number, but if my option is we can only get the smaller number now.
Yeah, you can't just keep bringing up the same motion, but as long as you make it a completely new motion, I mean, I think you could interpret that as 6 and 4 are not 12 and 5. And that is a completely new motion.
So what you are saying is we can vote this, then we can do another motion for the higher number to see if the higher number would also be approved or not approved. Obviously, if it is not approved, why would you go to a higher number?
That was my understanding before today, but
It is different than my understanding of Robert's rules, but we will go with what the consensus
But
is here.
you're changing them. You can't keep voting.
Yes, I would
right?
agree.
There is if it's 6-1 and it fails 6-1, you can't keep voting until it passes. That's for certain.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But if the motion changes, all right, it's a different motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Right, Leah?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody keeps doing it, then the chair gets kind of mad at them and we hold them in fake contempt, I don't know. So I would say you should, I think going from 6 to 4 to 12 to 5 is a significant, substantial change to the intent of the motion, because that's a lot more kids. I think you could also break it up into one school at a time for future votes, because you might agree differently on different schools, but you can't just say 6 and 4 again. It would
6
have
and
to be
5.
no, he
6
said
and
6 and 4.
4K. He said 6 and 4K and 4 and 5K.
Yes, that was my motion. I'm sorry, I've not been watching you type.
Yep, there it is. Yep, I'm looking at the screen. Okay, so 6 and 4K and 4 and 5K is the motion that's been seconded. You can't vote again if it fails.
Yes, I would agree with you that is a substantially different motion.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, given the motion that Ms. Moshe has now typed up as the final resolution, with 6 in 4K and 4 in 5K, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
And that passes.
So I'm not sure if I could tell what Becky said.
I said no,
Okay.
under the assumption that another motion
Well,
Okay.
come if needed.
The motion passes.
so
now
this motion passes, this passes,
Yes, we are.
and it stands. If it fails, somebody can
Yes.
bring a new motion. So
It stands.
It stands.
it stands.
Yes.
So if what's up there is correct, like I said, I was trying to look.
I believe it is.
It passes, so then it's closed. If it fails, people have the option to bring new motions.
Okay. So
That
we
was
are
my-
done. We are done with this agenda item.
We are.
Well, I think you have to ask for discussion on this before.
No, this is ending it.
Oh, okay.
So when Jesse made the original motion and then Hallie seconded it, then that opens discussion.
Motion carried.
And then we had a lot of talking. And then if it passes, it's done. If it failed, that's where you have the option to bring up other things.
Got it.
I just want to comment that I misunderstood that then. I would
Okay.
have changed my vote. I thought we had cleared that we could motion again, even if it approved, but my misunderstanding.
Okay.
That was a lot of Robert's rules, maybe fine points there.
Okay, so you
So,
can have
we
a
will-
motion to reconsider if you voted,
Someone's a no. So it
no, if somebody's a yes.
says that they.
A member who voted on the winning side, of a defeated motion, yeah, no, you're,
It passes. It's, yeah, no,
It's
a pass motion. You're done.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
no going back
Sorry.
at that point in Robert's rules.
I got a little too happy for you there for a second. It's been a 12 and a half hour day. I didn't read up on Robert's rules today.
We didn't know there was going to be a quiz at the end.
No, I did not.
Next, we are on action item D, voucher payables.
I motion to approve vouchers payable from July 10th through August 6th, 2026 for the amount of $1,575,71.64.
I will second your motion. Is there any discussion of vouchers payable? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes. That brings us to the consent agenda. Tonight, the consent agenda only has the board meeting minutes from July 13th. So I am seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion to approve the consent. I'll second.
We have a motion from Mr. Lyon, a second by Mr. Taylor. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The consent agenda is passed. Any future board agenda items?
I have several, couple optimal ranges, it appears. It would be a good future board agenda, maybe for policy committee.
No.
Or perhaps a
Curriculum
board.
learning?
Or board, yeah, wherever. I think it seems, just from discussion, optimal ranges is something to bring up again and discuss and look at.
Be great to benchmark those against locals too.
Just from discussion, because there are certain districts, Neola districts, that do have that in AGs or policies. So it's something to be aware of. Also, can parents restrict what their kids read? And the context is referencing the state laws that I reference. 16 and 17-year-olds, I think several board members brought up the question. So that's a future agenda item. Also, board workshop is coming up. So Sunday, 10 o'clock, I'll send reminders. And annual meeting is our next meeting. It's actually our only fully public meeting, meaning the public votes. It's the only meeting in the year which I can vote as well, as long with every community member. Anybody who lives in the Falls can vote. So the annual meeting will be at the high school, and we'll make sure to get that information out. So there's 2 meetings in September. The annual meeting is first at the high school auditorium, and then the second meeting is toward the end of the month, which is our standard meeting in September.
Okay, thank you. That might be the most possible agenda items we've ever had. And with that, I am looking for a motion to close and adjourn the meeting.
I will motion.
Motion?
I'll second.
The second, Mr. Langer. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.
It was unanimous.